43 countries are going to be in Stockholm next year. How exciting is that? Not only that, we already know who Bosnia Herzegovina is going to send, as well as Macedonia. So we'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about how the current situation when it comes to terrorist attacks will affect the EBU and Eurovision, if at all. So join in the Know It All podcast. And by know it all, I mean not knowing anything. Let's do this. Yes, we've been off the air for about a couple of weeks, and boy, so much has happened since then. And first of all, I need to apologize for my voice. I have a cold. My apologies if I sound disgusting, but I'm trying. I'm taking medication. I'm almost there, so just ignore it for now. But as always, the most important thing is that we want to hear from you, and make sure that you go to Twitter. Our Twitter handle is ESC United. Use the hashtag ESC United so we can find you. You can also go to our forum, post your messages, and we'll make sure to respond to them. And as I said, boy, there's a lot to talk about, so I don't want to waste too much time, but I'm not going to do this by myself. And let me introduce you my guests for today. Let's start with Zach. And Zach, you've been with me to Eurovision quite a few times. What has been your exposure to Eurovision so far?
Last year we were in Vienna. Well, this past May we were in Vienna together, and then 2 years ago I went with you to Malmö, Sweden. Did I finally pronounce that right? Because
what did you say?
I've been screwing
Malmö.
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 I give up. Sweden. I've been to Sweden.
The country, yeah.
And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there.
And who has been so far your favorite person to meet over there? I know the answer probably, but I want to see if we agree.
This year or just in
general, like if you have to pick your favorite, like Eurovision performer.
Okay, so I was originally going to say I really enjoyed meeting and hanging out with the San Marino delegation. That may not include the artist, but if we had to talk about an artist, probably Valentina. Just that first year when you and I were in Sweden, the whole delegation was so nice to us, and she was great. And it's kind of awesome that I took a year off in 2014 to get hooded for my doctoral degree, and I went back to Vienna, and she was there, and she actually remembered me. So it was really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool people. We really like them. And we also have Stefan with us. Tell me your exposure to Eurovision. How many Eurovisions have you been to?
Yeah, hello guys. Well, my first Eurovision was actually last year in Copenhagen, but I'm following it since 2003. This was my second year. For my favorite people, if you're talking about artists, I would say it have to be Daniel from Macedonia and Bojana from Serbia, because they are totally positive, happy, spreading joy all around you. And if you're talking about delegations, I would have to say probably Norwegian HOD, because she's an amazing person. She's always coming forward to fans, to press. I don't know, that would be probably it. Huh?
No, that's good enough. That's good enough. No, there are a lot of nice people out there. I always enjoy going back. Cannot wait for Stockholm. But enough of us. Let's talk about what's going on. And I'm going to jump right into the first topic. And that is, well, unless you live under a giant rock, you should know by now that Australia is back in Eurovision. As Mr. Jon Olasund already announced that they'll be back again as a guest as of right now, not a full member. But basically he was saying that their participation was incredibly popular and successful. He's saying the press, the fans, the broadcasters, everyone was just so excited to have them. Therefore, they brought them back this time around. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is because, as you are all aware, there has been a lot of discussion online and whether or not Australia should take part, because the Eurovision Song Contest, at least until last year before Australia took part, is only for countries that fall within the European Broadcasting Union broadcasting area, basically, which Australia clearly is not part of. So the EBU made that exceptions for them. A lot of people were saying that, hey, this is a European contest, so it should only be European countries. We put a poll up online and to see where people are, like leaning towards whether yes or no, and it was right down in the middle, or almost in the middle. 52% said yes, we agree with Australia returning to the contest, and 48% said no, we do not. And in case you forgot, this is their contribution to Eurovision so far. So I want to talk about this. Let's start with you, Stefan. Your personal opinion on Australia. You think it's a good or bad thing? Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, personally, looking from perspective as a Serbian, I think it's a good thing because if you look at the scoreboards, Australia gave 12 points to Serbia in first semi-final and 5 points in the final this year. Looking at it as an ordinary Eurovision fan, I think there is a future for Australia. Personally, I don't mind it, but maybe it would be a better thing if we have a guest country every year. Let's say that this year it's Australia, next year it's Canada, then we have China, United States, Brazil, Argentina, India. It could be like expanding the Eurovision, but not as a global contest. Every year we should probably have a guest entry from another country around the world.
Interesting. Well, I don't want Australian because it didn't give any points to my home country, Germany. So that's my reasoning. No, I'm kidding.
No one did, Matt.
I know. Thanks for pointing that out.
So Germany should be like the only country participating in Eurovision.
I know, then we can win again. Hey, we won 5 years ago, so shut up, everyone. But Zach, now as I mentioned earlier, Jan Olasan, he indicated that the contest may be evolving into something more of a global contest. So I want to like to hear from you, as an American in particular. What are your thoughts on this? You think this is where it should head, or is heading, or where are we ending up in the future?
I think my perspective with talking with people in Vienna and with my friends who are from Europe is that they always perceived Eurovision as something very European in identity. And I think for it to become a global contest may change that feeling of identity, of belonging. A lot of people jokingly say this is one party where, countries like the U.S. are not invited. And to have an outside country such as Australia, although it's been such a huge follower since the 1980s involved, it may cause some issues with the idea of what the contest was and how it began. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I think. I do like Stefan's idea about having a guest country come in. Maybe that's perhaps outside of the EBU, latitude and longitude area. It looked like China was going to be that guest this year. Maybe they'll be the guest next year, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
Right. And one of the things that I want to point out is you said there are a lot of people, especially the ones that are actually actively involved, whether they're going to get tickets and go to the shows, if it's the fan press or just the regular fans, they tend to be more against that participation. But we're talking about the hardcore, diehard fans. If you look at the more broader spectrum, like just your average, ordinary viewer who only tunes in once a year to see the contest, from their perspective, it appears that it has been immensely popular. So I don't know if it's going to make a difference for these individuals, but I can definitely see where the die-hard fans have a problem with that. Now, the question I have, Stefan, I don't know if you have an answer to that, but, Zach pointed out that the contest, the nature of the contest and what it stands for, the party that America and other countries are not invited, is a solely European contest. If you look at the beginning of the contest, it has changed. Yes, maybe not the countries in terms of who takes part, but if we would still have a contest that was like 1956, where every country has 2 songs and only one country is randomly announced. It has changed. We get televoters in. We got semifinals added. So do you think this is a natural progression? This is the next step to make it more global? Or you think this is just the step one too far? This is where it crosses the line?
Well, I don't think it's going to become like a global contest. Everything develops, like technology develops, people develop. So Eurovision has to develop too. Also, like I said, it should not be become like a global contest. I don't mind Australia, but it is a good thing to expand Eurovision in a way that we have like a guest country from around the world every year. That would be like a progressive way, in a good way for Eurovision.
Yeah, and I said something similar before, so I may be repeating myself from the last podcast. And I personally, and I may be in the minority, I'm not necessarily opposed to a contest that is becoming more global, if you will, or where we go beyond the European borders as long as there is some kind of system. The reason why a lot of people were upset about this is not necessarily just because Australia was giving, a spot, but the way it was given to them. Because I remember the day I found out, Zach actually messaged me. I was still in bed, I think, because it was early in America, in California. And he's like, "So you heard about Australia?" And I'm like, "Nah, they would never do that, the EBU. You're crazy." And then he's like, "No, I'm serious." And I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe it, because until then, the EBU never really made exceptions like that before. So it just came completely out of the blue. So to me, I guess why I was surprised, because an exception was made when there are other countries, like, and I use usually the example of Kazakhstan, who has been trying to take part in the contest, and they were not allowed into the EBU. And it feels like you're picking one country over another when one clearly has a closer relationship to Europe, because they're still in the broadcasting area, actually. So they should be eligible based on that criteria. So to me, it comes down to make it fair. Don't make exceptions, because otherwise, if you make an exception one time, you have to do it again.
Yeah, Matt, I think the other thing is Kazakhstan actually within the EBU territory? I think they're right outside, correct?
Yes. Like 1/3 of Kazakhstan, it is like.
Yeah, 1/3. I guess portion of it is, yes.
Okay, so I think from their perspective, they sort of have a right to be upset. At the same time, though, I think a lot of people were really upset about Australia's participation, is that they were the only country that were allowed to vote in not just one semifinal, but two semifinals. So they had a unique opportunity that no other individuals from any other country was given. And I think that issue seems to be rectified this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they introduce any other guest countries in the end. I think if they want to have a guest country, I kind of like the idea of having Australia as just a guest in the final, and maybe they only are allowed to vote in the final and not in the semifinals. I think I agree with you. There's going to have to be a system developed to be able to provide a meaningful way to have involvement from outside countries as well. And then at the same time, as you mentioned, I think there should be a lot more exploration into getting countries back, but not just any countries, but countries who really would have an invested interest in bringing good music from their countries into the Eurovision.
Yes, I completely agree. And so it sounds like the consensus is it's not that we don't want Australia in, but make it fair and come up with a system that gives everyone the opportunity to take part. And let's hope the EBU is listening. I know a lot of people are, so fingers crossed. So that's what we're heading towards. That's good stuff. But let's move on to something else. And that is, a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, the news broke, and or the EBU made the announcement that 43 countries are going to take part in Eurovision next year in Stockholm. That is a big number, as a matter of fact. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that only happened twice, back in 2009 and 2011.
2008 and 2008 and 2011.
2008 and 11, that's what it was. Yes, exactly. So we almost broke the record. Thanks, Portugal. But so I wanted to hear from you guys. Let's talk about this. Zach, I'm going to start with you. I want to hear your thoughts and which of the returning countries you're most excited about and why.
I don't blame Portugal. I blame Turkey. I just want to state that.
All right, fair enough.
So we can have equally pissed off Turkish and Portuguese fans attacking us. I think I'm actually most excited about obvious reasons, Ukraine. They always have great songs that come in.
Wanna be loved. Not gonna take my wild chance. Freedom ever. I'm wild dancing.
To the competition every year, although they were only gone for 1 year. I'm excited to have them back. As far as the countries that had a longer break, I'd probably say that I'm excited to see what Bosnia and Herzegovina are gonna provide. Just because when you look at the artist who was announced, or one of the three artists who was announced, and who he will be singing with, I just can't imagine it's going to be another in the disco again. I'm really curious to see if we're going to see another side of.
Is that good or bad? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't know yet. Bosnia and Herzegovina has a. What was that?
I said I always catch you humming that song when we're anywhere.
Oh, I've been singing that nonstop since the announcement was made, to everyone's annoyance here in North Carolina.
Oh dear. What about you, Stefan? I know you live in the area where a lot of the countries, like Croatia and Bosnia, and
yeah. Like
you must be especially excited.
Oh yeah, like for the first time since I think since 2012, the whole Balkan is participating. Bosnia is back only because of the sponsors. So actually, their national broadcaster is not paying a dime for this participation. Rumor has it that the man who paid actually the participation fee is Dean's father. So obviously, that's why he is one of the singers who will represent the country. There are rumors that their song is not going to be a ballad. It's going to be like a popish tune, but it's not confirmed. 43 countries, yeah, it's the biggest number since 2008 and 2011. It's a good thing to have a big amount of countries for the. We will have more viewers, but we'll also have more participants in the semifinals. So it's not like last year's when we had 15, 16, 17 countries in one semifinal. Now 9 countries and 8 countries will fall out of the semifinal this year. So competition is going to be really, really big.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's very interesting. So let me be the Debbie Downer here for just a second, or just play devil's advocate. Let's be a little bit more different twist on there, Zach. Yes. The good thing is we have 43 countries, which means we are going to have 18 countries in one sem and then 19 in the other, if my math adds up. But that also means we're going to have 8 and 9 non-qualifiers. Therefore, we're going to have a lot of upset broadcasters, I would think. Do you think that's going to be actually more counterproductive in the end, having all these countries, or you don't think that's going to make a difference?
I think the interesting thing is going to see which semifinal Australia's put in, and if Australia qualifies for the finale, which country is thus left out. It's almost sort of like what happened with Macedonia in 2008 and 2009, when they were technically the 10th place country within their semifinal, but they got kicked out of the final because of the jury selection, choosing Sweden, or I'm not sure which other country was, Sweden and Croatia, respectively.
It was Finland in the first semifinal in 2009, I think.
And that was, I don't know how that belonged in the finale. But I think it's going to be interesting to see the reaction of that country. And, right now, the way the trend's going, I mean, if that country's Macedonia, we may see an uproar
Probably
from those folks. Yeah, just they're kind of the unlucky folks.
I know. Allegedly, they've always been on the verge of withdrawing from the contest because they were always so close and then they're not making it. Do you think, Stefan, that is actually accurate that Macedonia was this close to qualification, or are these just rumors?
In 2008, 2009, or?
In general, because they always didn't qualify, and if they don't qualify, they're always close. It's always been the rumor that they may withdraw from the contest because of their bad luck, if you will.
I don't believe so, because Eurovision is really popular in Macedonia. We have Kaliopi representing them again this year, so obviously they really, really want to get to the final again since her last.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, Matt, when Olivia and I last year in Vienna at the beginning of semifinal one, I mean, I think one of the best memories we had was we came across a group of about 20 kids from Macedonia singing Autumn Leaves, the original song, in its original language. And there was just a lot of energy directed towards supporting Daniel. So, yeah, the groups, some of those countries that may not do as well in Eurovision still have a huge fan base, and the show is really popular still.
So it sounds like to me that, especially for certain countries, some other countries are a little bit more competitive, but especially some of the ex-Yugoslavian countries, that it is more about participation, just being, because their exposure to the international platform, if you will, is fairly limited. So you think just being part of something so big is already enough for them to take part in the contest. Of course, I want to qualify, but just being there is already a big deal for them. Is that a fair statement, Stefan, you think?
Yeah. Because also Eurovision is popular not just in Macedonia, it's in Serbia, in Bosnia, in Montenegro. I think not so much, but since they have qualified for the last 2 times, it's like rising popularity. Also, country in the Balkans really want to host Eurovisions again. Either it's like Greece, Serbia, even like Macedonia, who is like in financial crisis, and it would be a good thing to come like into a cheaper country, because come on, the west, the north is really expensive for some other people coming to Eurovision. So it's time for a southern country to win.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm totally on board with that. Of course, it should always come down to the song, blah, 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 whatever. But if I could only just pick a country just because, it's time to go to that area, it would be somewhere in that area. My dream would be Croatia, because I was always so sad Croatia withdrew, because that's like my dream place to go to. So now that they're back, I would love to go back to that. Oh, not back. I would go for the first time. Well, we've been to Serbia, I guess. But, other than that, we've never been to any of the other countries. So,
yeah, I'm curious to see if there's any data out there that looks at how participation in Eurovision may have helped with tourism. I know Montenegro really did a good job of showcasing the beauty of the country in 2015 and 2014's music videos. And Azerbaijan did that in 2012 with their video postcards. And even Bulgaria and Malta did the same things with Junior Eurovision. It was with all those cases that those are places that I would love to visit someday, just to be able to see some of those landmarks in person.
Yeah, no, I do know. I don't have the number in front of me. I remember reading up on it on an article that even Malmö, a smaller Swedish town, actually tourism went up significantly even after Eurovision. That was very helpful exposure, because Malmö's reputation itself was not necessarily, the best when it came to violence and all of that. So it does make a difference. I don't know how big of a difference it makes for bigger countries. So with Stockholm, people know Stockholm. If they were to go to Sweden, that's where they were going anyway. So I think there's a difference between a smaller unknown place versus a, already well-established city. All right. So now, speaking of 43 countries, that's all great and good, but already a few have already given us a few more information. Let's go back to Macedonia, and somebody that a lot of you will know, Kaliopi. She was announced as the representative for that country coming back, which definitely brought a lot of attention, because in 2012 she's the only artist to qualify from the semifinals, a Macedonian artist, since the introduction of the 2 semifinal system. So here's a quick snippet of her 2012 effort.
Сега гушни me, do nebo digni me, crno I belo jedna vistina I jedna laga, iako zajedno sme. Ja zbiram sreća, ti biraš talga, crno I belo dobro I lošo ništo ne deli, daj se ga nasmevni se.
Now that they haven't had that much success, do you think, Stefan, this is why they brought her back, because she's the only one who qualified and they think they can do it again?
Well, they wanted to go big. They couldn't go bigger with Kaliopi. I'm hoping that the song will be like even better than Bello. Her voice is amazing. I think definitely she will qualify no matter what the song is, because people outside of Macedonia, like even Macedonian diaspora, Serbian diaspora, all the ex-Yugoslav diaspora know of her and will sure vote for her. So I think that televote will not be a problem. Also because of her natural talent and charisma, she will also persuade juries to vote. So I'm hoping that we will see Macedonia again in the finals next year.
Yeah, I want to believe you because I'd love for her to come back. Of course, it always depends on the song. Yeah, whatever. But I'm a little concerned because even in 2012, when she did qualify, she only qualified in 9th place, I think. So she was more of a borderline qualifier. So it could have probably just gone the other way as well. But my question to you about that, Zach, is because a couple of years ago you wrote actually an article on ESC United, or like a couple of was a series where you talked about returning artists to Eurovision and see how they did compared to like the first or second attempt and then the second or third time around. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on average, or it was more likely for the artists to do worse than better. Is that correct? What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's almost like countries come and think that the easiest solution to qualifying or doing better is bringing back a returning artist who has had past success. So in the case of Azerbaijan, this past year in Vienna, they brought back their artist from 2008 who provided Azerbaijan with their first top 10 entry. Not as much success this year, or I think they finished in the middle of the pack in the finale. You have a lot of situations where the Netherlands that one year brought back Celia Romney. She didn't qualify. Iceland brought back Selma. She didn't qualify. Bulgaria brought back Elitsa and Stoyan. They didn't qualify. But there are also scenarios in which a returning artist does do better. Carola from Sweden finished third, came back in 91, won Eurovision. But at the same time, you could say, well, when she came back in 2006, she did worse. 5th place.
Still good
bad.
Though, right?
Yeah, still pretty good. But when it comes down to it, it was still worse. But I mean, that's a high threshold to deal with. It was coming back to trying to finish first.
Yeah.
So with what I wrote with ESC United, I mean, a lot of cases that people ended up finishing worse, mostly because they did so well in their first time participating.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And just another example, I remember Chiara in 1998, she finished third. She came back in 2005 and finished second. Then she came back in 2009, and then it was downhill from there, unfortunately. And that happened quite a few times. But I'm not saying it's going to happen to Kaliopi. Of course, we wish her the best. Out of curiosity, Stefan, like her entry from 2012, is that usually her style? Or is that something, it's more like it was Eurovisionized to make it more appealing to the rest of Europe? Is that usually her music, or what do you expect from her?
Well, she mostly has powerful songs. And to add to Zach's opinion, the most important thing for the comebacks is to have a better song than you had the last time. All of those who came back, in my personal opinion, I think that their first songs were better than the comebacks.
All of them?
I agree, actually, 100%.
Really? I don't know if I agree with all of them. Would I say the majority? Yes. But all of them?
Okay,
I mean,
the name a song for an artist that came back the second time or third time that was better.
Well, I said second time.
I will say the one exception was probably Valentina, just because that first song was, well, we all knew it was pretty special.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Well, what about
maybe
Chiara?
for Valentina?
Go ahead, sorry.
For Chiara and Valentina, maybe because they both were like 3 times, I would say that the second song was the best for both of them.
So see, that's not 100%. I'm right. You're wrong. I just want to be right. That's all I want to do here. Okay. So, but then that's not the only one. We also have Bosnia Herzegovina. They announced also a couple of days ago that they're not going to have 1, not 2, but 3 artists. And on top of that is going to be a returning artist, as you, Stefan, already mentioned. And one of them is Dean. Then there is, and please correct me if I say the name wrong, but it's Delal. Is that how you say it? Dalal?
Yeah. Not probably the right accent, but that's right. Yeah.
Dalal. I don't know. I don't have the accent. And Anna
It's
for
Dilal.
Bosnia. Yeah, Dilal. Oh, well, I was totally off there. All right. Well, why don't you give us a quick introduction of these three individuals? You know them a little better probably than we do, except for Ian, of course.
Okay, let's then skip Dean. Oh, sorry for my coughing. Dilal, she was a part of a girl group. Then she was singing like in duet with her twin sister, but unfortunately her sister died. I think it's either it died in a car crash either this January or last January.
Oh, that's
Correct
horrible.
me.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she like stopped for some time doing music, and she came back with amazing ballad. Anna, actually, I think her last name is Rucner. She's from Croatia. She actually is not singing. She's a cello player. Mostly, she's not playing ballads, so that's why people think that the song is going to be like a pop tune. Actually, it's not three of them, it's five of them. The fourth, it's a woman called Zuzi Zu. She was like famous during 80s and 90s. She was part of popular bands in whole Yugoslavia, and she actually was a backing vocalist in Eurovision for Bosnia when it was part of Yugoslavia. And the fifth member of the team is a rapper. I'm not sure of his name, but he wrote the lyrics for the song. So it's actually it's going to be five of them on stage.
So that's going to be a rapper, and since we're going to have a rap section in that song.
Oh, geez, here we go.
I know. I was just, Zach, your thoughts on this, please, when you hear this recipe.
I was sold all the way until you said rapper.
I know. And so, I guess it's also you need to think about because Eastern European rap, I can only speak on behalf of the Western ear. It seems weird. Like it's acquired. Is that the fair thing to say, Zach? When we hear that, it seems a little foreign to us.
I think I'm not sure. I guess for me, it's when you have a group like Austria's Trakshitters back in 2012 when it's all rap. I think it turns people off, and I think the results kind of showed that. But then when you have something like Husi and Nina in 2013 from Montenegro, I almost felt like the focus was more on Nina when it was really Husi were the act. I just remember you and I in the press center just kind of thinking like, I think I remember saying I thought a lot of her vocals were manufactured and done in the studio, and then to hear her actually sing live, it was just like,
flawless.
Holy crap, she's actually a fantastic singer. And I think a lot of the focus for me on that performance was on her. And so she's someone I'm hoping will come back one day and just belt out a really good song for Montenegro. But as far as with the Bosnia and Herzegovina act this year, it depends on how they utilize the rapper. If he's more of a small feature versus a complete focus.
I believe it's going to be like a small feature, like one part of the verse, probably.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Do we have a song, and I'm sure there is, there are so many songs right now. Has it been like a song that had rap pieces in it that did really well?
How did Love City Groove in 95 do for the UK?
I think they were like 8th place or 10th place, something like that. So it was, I guess, fairly okay, but considering how they finished those years back in the early mid-90s, it was actually quite a disappointment from that perspective. But I guess it did a little better, but I don't know if they would have done as well today with like 40-something countries taking part. And
I feel like there was something recent in recent years, but I can't remember, and I'm sure someone's going to be on Twitter screaming at me saying you should know this.
It's that one. I'm like, it's not coming to me either.
Me also. That's why I'm silent. So now, yeah.
Well, if there is, just let us know, folks. It's not that we don't know our stuff, but we can think of it right this second. But that, I guess, just shows there are not that many songs out there that has rap in it that actually do well. And now thinking about it, it's not just the Eastern part, but it's also Western. I remember like songs like No Dream Impossible, UK 2001, Das Samson, the what's it called, Teenage Life.
Yeah.
So it's just not, and it's not. I'm not personally a fan of rap music, so I'm a little biased here. But
I love rap music.
Is that sarcasm or you're serious?
No. I actually love rap music.
It came like it sounded sarcastic.
From the real ratchet stuff like My Baby Daddy all the way to the real introspective stuff like Kendrick Lamar and Common.
Okay, it just hasn't really worked at Eurovision yet. So we shall see. We're not trying to be too judgy. Maybe it's going to be awesome and they're going to blow us away. But that is just an interesting thing to hear that they're going to have rap. All right, Stefan, you mentioned earlier that Bosnia's participation was funded by whom again?
It was paid by Dean's father. So I guess that's why he's been chosen, but there are just rumors about it.
It's not public knowledge. It's not like people are.
It's just rumors. Not publicly defined, but it's just on a rumor basis.
Okay, then I wonder why all the other people are part of that as well. I mean, that's a big project, having 5
because
different...
Dean and Dilal are friends since high school. They went in the same high school.
See, the puzzle's coming together here. It's just interesting because I'm also thinking, because when we have these big collaboration of artists, like let's just think Armenia last year, everyone wanted to be the singer. You know what I mean? They wanted to be like the voice, or they seem like try to outshine each other. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case with Bosnia Herzegovina.
No, I don't want to be the case with this.
You don't? Okay, well, that's good. That's good, because we don't want Bosnia Herzegovina to end their streak of not qualifying, because they've always qualified.
Anna is only going to play the cello. Zuzizu is going to be only like a backing vocalist, so technically only 3 of them will be singing.
Oh, okay.
The rapper, Dean, and Dilal.
Well, we all remember 2009 and Bulgaria's quote-unquote backing singer who stole the spotlight with her Elvira haircut and her loud vocals. But I guess supposedly she was a well-known, well-established Bulgarian singer. And I just think that performance wasn't her night. But I guess in the scope of it all, In the Disco is kind of a funny, quirky song that may or may not reflect Dean's musicality, but this is probably one of the entries now I'm really the most curious about, just to see. I don't know what to expect. I'm going to expect someone singing a Balkan ballad with a lisp, to be quite honest, but I'm expecting to be pleasantly surprised.
Okay,
it's not going to be a ballad, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
And Dean, just one final question on this. Dean, I've called you Dean, Stefan. I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you about Dean. At this point, is he still popular in the area or in his country, or is he more of a forgotten artist that is trying to have a comeback?
No. It's like about he's forgotten and trying to come back. Yeah.
Okay, that was my thought as well, because I haven't heard from him. But again, I don't live in that area. But I was just curious. So yeah, I agree with Zach. I'm very intrigued and see what they're going to come up with. It could go either way, I think, but we'll look forward to it. All right. So the next topic. This is, I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, it is a serious, but I don't want to, make this a political conversation per se, but it's going to come down to, we live in a real world and we need to address the issues that are at hand. And one of the ones that we all are aware of what happened over the past few weeks were attacks, terrorist attacks across the world, whether it's in Paris, what happened in Lebanon, the Russian airplane. So we have an issue with terrorism that is real, and I wanted to bring this up. It has come up on social media among people that I know that love Eurovision, and how this is going to affect the contest in Stockholm next year. It is an international event. It's big. It's the biggest non-sporting event in the world. So I guess common sense kind of, it dictates that the contest may or could be a target for any kind of attacks. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. It may not happen, but we live in a real world where we need to be prepared and be ready for it. So I just want to bring up the conversation about what needs to be done to prevent that, or whether if it's the EBU, the broadcaster, the producers of the show, but as well as the fans and the media, how they should behave in order to be safe. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Both of you went to the Eurovision Song Contest. Zach, you went twice. You've been, Stefan. What
twice
are you?
Also.
Yeah, twice. That's right. You went twice. That's right. What are your thoughts? Do you feel, Zach, I'm going to start with you. Do you feel this is a legitimate concern, or I think we're overthinking that it's overplayed?
I don't think any concerns about terrorism or terrorist attacks are ever over concern, are something that needs to be ignored. I think there was actually rumors of a thwarted plot at some point at one of the more recent Eurovisions. I think it was in Baku. It's something when I first thought about when I went to my first Eurovision in Sweden in 2013, that just, this is a potential place where someone could cause some havoc or really screw up and hurt a lot of people. And I think France and what happened there and what's been happening in other parts of the world has really made us more aware. And it's unfortunate to say, but I think these type of incidents that are happening are causing organizers and event organizers to be a lot more considerate about the type of security and the type of infrastructure they have to protect the attendees and the media. I think with the press coverage that Matt, you and I went to in Sweden and in Austria, and you can probably say the same thing about when you were in Denmark 2 years ago. I was actually surprised that we had to go through security checks like an airport every time we went in and went outside of the press center. My other thought is that one thing we may see this year in Sweden is we may see a lot more security standing outside of the arena, more so than what we saw in years past.
Yeah, because just to elaborate on what Zach said, in case you don't know, like the press, anyone who has any kind of accreditation, whether it's fans, the press, the delegation, anybody, they go through actually, and what's before this all happened, go through security. We just like in the airport, they take your bags, they scan them. You have to empty your pockets. You go through that scanner thing and all of that good stuff. And so from that perspective, they try to keep it very safe. But the fans itself, when you go to see the show, it was at some points less secured from what I could see. So, Stefan, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to see, do you have any thoughts in regards to security measures, what can be done, or if they're already doing enough?
Well, I guess it would be a problem if there was same safety measure for the people who are coming into the arena to see the show as for the press. It will take much more time than it's usually done. But safety measures should be brought to a higher level. I'm not an expert how to do that, but like EBU, Swedish national broadcaster, the organizers should think of a way to make all of us as safe as possible, because everybody is saying that people should avoid mass gathering places, and Eurovision and the press center is right that thing what should be avoided.
Yeah. Now, Zach, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. Okay.
Zach, I just wanted to hear from you. Do you think that because I wasn't just a few days ago, wasn't that long ago, just a question to the EBU to see what their stance is on that and whether or not they're going to address it. Should the EBU make a statement, a public statement on this, or you think bringing this up will just make things worse and create more concern and panic among the fans, or do you think the EBU has the obligation to address this issue?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm not sure if I actually have the answer for you regarding that. It is kind of a case where you could see the good and the bad of doing both. I think one thing I could say in favor of the EBU releasing a statement is that this is something that occurs every year, and there's almost a formula for how to make a Eurovision successful, but each country has its right to be able to provide things that make it unique for that specific year. And people always talk about this is kind of like the Olympics, but within a 1-year span versus a 4-year span. So I think the benefit of having the EBU release something or saying things is that they can be in the forefront for organizers about what are the components that make a very secure venue for everyone involved, be it the organizers, the audience, the members of the press, as well as the performers.
Yes, no, I actually I completely agree with what you said. I think just talking about it is always a better thing than not talking about it. And the EBU can even then address the issue and actually eliminate concerns. And they have a flawless track record when it comes to security. So they could easily point to that and just saying, we understand the issues in the world and we've been dealing with them for a long time and we'll continue doing that. Just something down that road, and they can do their stuff behind the scenes that they've been really good at. I give them a lot of props for that. Just do that. I think it hasn't been like a big thing in the media yet, but I think the closer we get to the contest, I think more and more voices will speak up and say, hey, what are you going to do about this? Especially, God forbid, if some other major attack were to happen in Europe or anywhere else in the world for that matter. But of course, when it happens in Europe, it hits home and it becomes a bigger concern. So hopefully we'll hear from the EBU at some point, but I don't want anyone to worry about this saying, no, we're going to address it. This now you have to be scared. It's really, there's never been an issue, and security, at least from what I have seen, what we have seen, has been pretty decent. And let's hope that it's going to continue that way. All right, then the last thing I want to bring up, and this is more fun, and the topic I wanted to bring up is how important are big names in Eurovision? We talked earlier about, artists that are returning to the contest, like Kaliopi, who is a big name in Macedonia. But this conversation sparked why I was thinking about it, because recently Germany was planned on sending a very famous singer, Xavier Naidoo, who is pretty popular in Germany. Then they decided to withdraw that singer because of some drama and some controversy that he sparked when it comes to, allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly because I don't know, alleged homophobic and anti-Semitic statements that he has made in the past. But the thought that came to my mind is a lot of countries in the past have tried to send big names, whether it's local or sometimes even former international big names, thinking that sending somebody who has already name recognition could or would do better at Eurovision. Now, without looking at the track record, I want to see, Zach, do you agree with that? Do you think that's a good idea, sending big names, just for the sake of sending someone that is known?
I mean, I think when it all comes down to it, Stefan said this earlier, it's all about the song. And then secondly, the performance. You can have a really fantastic artist, but if you have a crappy song or crappy staging, it just kills the point of having that artist there. Or perhaps maybe relying on the staging and the artist names too much and not having a good song. I think an example of that was 2013, where Bonnie Tyler was used, and she was a huge name. I was really excited to see her on stage, but just when it came down to it, the song, in my opinion, wasn't the greatest. And even the use of that staging at the end where she was lifted up, I don't know what that thing was called. It was kind of like she was elevated up in the middle, in the front stage. It just kind of didn't really have the effect that I thought it would. I mean, Loreen in the interval act used that effect to a much greater effect because she had a good song, and that kind of made the difference. So, at the counterpoint, you can have a lot of undiscovered artists, and if they have one good song that is presented well on the Eurovision stage, it can be a stepping stone into a future success as an artist.
Okay, so then just to elaborate on that, let's just say we had the song All About That Bass from Meghan Trainor. Let's just say Bonnie Tyler were to sing All About That Bass before, let's say I would go out there. Do you think Bonnie Tyler would be more successful at Eurovision because she's the known singer with a good song versus me, who is like nobody?
Well, I think it also depends on the interaction between the artist and the song. I mean, Bonnie Tyler singing All About That Bass would just be very awkward and comfortable.
It's the first one that came to mind. Just think of some others.
But I think when it comes down to it, it's just making sure there's some sort of connection between the artist, the song, and the staging. I think Sweden in 2012 did a fantastic job with creating that effect. Where I remember when I first saw the first 30 seconds of Euphoria and Loreen was doing that freaky crab walk across the stage, I remember texting my friend and saying, I don't know what Sweden's doing, but this is horrible, only for 30 seconds to pass later and say, I don't know what Sweden's doing, but this is fantastic now that I got to see the full package.
That was before you watched Did you know the songs prior to the?
Yeah. When I first started watching Eurovision, I had no back knowledge about the national finals. I had no idea how the songs were chosen, so I was watching all the songs cold turkey. And I know last year I tried to experiment with, going to the press center and not having heard any of the songs.
And you miserably failed.
I failed miserably right when the Swedish Melody Festivalen kind of came in.
Damn you, Melody Festivalen.
Yeah, so, I mean, I gave up.
Oh, you gave up. So that was just interesting. So what about you, Stefan? Do you think that, especially in your area, the Balkan countries, they often send like known names that are known in that area. So do you think that makes a difference, or that's really not really effective?
Can you just please repeat the question, because I lost you again?
Oh dear. I was saying that in your area, like the Balkan areas, the ex-Yugoslavian countries, you often send like very famous, I don't want to say local, but singers that are fairly known in your area, whether it's Kaliopi right now or some of the others you sent in the past, like Zelko Joksimovic. Do you think that really makes a difference, having a big name, or you think it doesn't really matter and it's more of a local exposure? Like my point is, you have... like Kaliopi, she's very popular in the area, so that she'll benefit from that. But from an international perspective, it may not make a big difference.
Well, when it comes to votes, diaspora from the from the Balkan is concentrating mostly on one name, on one country. For example, remember 2011 when most of the Serbian, Bosnian, Croatian diaspora all voted for Bosnia, and most of the 12 points went to Bosnia. I think that even Bosnia got even more of those points than the winner's song. But here it really doesn't matter because even big names, even not so much popular artists want to go to Eurovision, but big names want to be eternally chosen, like Jelena Krleusha, who we mentioned in today's article. She was actually negotiating last year. This year it will be probably her, and big names like her want to have their hands open so they can choose who is going to compose the song, who is going to direct their performance, and all the other stuff. But if you come to see it, Lena, Alexander Rybak, Dima Bilan, they're not so much popular. Their popularity came after Eurovision.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Croatia 2013, Nina, no, was in 2012, right?
Oh,
she was 2012.
Yeah.
Nina Batric was her name, right? She was famous, right?
Yeah, she is still famous. She's like one of their biggest stars.
And she didn't even qualify, so yeah. I guess that's my point I was trying to make. Yes, maybe it's beyond just being successful at Eurovision, but it's also great exposure for them, like in that part of the continent.
It was 5 ex-Yugoslav countries in that semi-final, so it was like not possible for all of 5 to qualify.
Yeah, oh, that's true. But the name itself apparently was not enough to actually, get her the ticket to the finals. So that's basically my point.
It goes back to what I was saying. That staging was horrible. I mean,
I don't even remember it really. I remember the song, but I don't remember the staging.
It was those 2 dudes dancing with those weird kilts, and they brought up that metallic sheet that they kind of flew about for a second.
Oh, yes.
The 3 backup singers were dressed like white clouds. I mean, she looked fantastic, and I thought she was vocally really good. I mean, I love that song. I actually love that parent album from which it came from. Rolling Stone note, if you listen to the album version, it's in a much different key because she actually had throat surgery right before Baku. So the album version is in a much different key, sounds very different from what you hear at Eurovision. But it's just like what I said. It's the combination of the artist, the song, and the staging, and those are all intricate parts to ensuring countries and artists' success.
Yes, and I think go ahead. Sorry.
In recent years, in my opinion, it has come more up to the performance than to a song.
Yes, and I would agree with that, especially recently. Maybe years back, it was a good thing to have a big name. But if you look back, just the most recent big names, whether it's Cascada or Engelbert Humperdinck, Bonnie Tyler, as you said, for the most part, they're all just flops. So regardless of their name recognition, it doesn't help them unless they really, really deliver. And all of them had either songs that are considered weak or had a fairly weak performance. So the name alone is not enough.
I guess, and it's also, I mean, those three names you mentioned, Cascada may be an argument, but I feel like they were kind of on their downward trajectory of their careers. No offense to them. They've done a lot. They were very successful, but it was sort of like Eurovision was sort of something there to help kind of keep them in the spotlight. I remember Bonnie Tyler even admitted that. She said, you know, I'm competing here because I got a new album out and I got to make some money. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen when you have an established act who's new, who's hot, who's on fire right at the moment, and how they do. I just can't think of any examples of an act who was just monstrously huge in a country at a time, who was in Eurovision and either did really well or perhaps really, or I just don't know. I know you could make the argument about France in 2012 with, I'm not sure if I'm going to say her name right, Angoon. But I mean, I would even make the argument, like, I remember her song Snow in the Sahara in the mid 90s, and I wasn't sure if she was doing so well, as popular in 2012. I mean, if Australia goes with Delta Goodrem, then maybe we'll see that case. I mean, she's had a decade-long career, but her comeback single...
Is she big and popular in Europe? I don't know. She's not that big.
Her first two albums did really well. And I don't think they ever released the third and the fourth albums there in Europe. But I remember in the UK, she had a couple successful top 10 singles back in 2003, 2004. And then they tried to launch her in the US, didn't really go so well. And I think she went back to Australia and continued having success there. But this new song of her, Wings, and I don't know if that's actually within the time frame of songs that can enter in Eurovision, but that would be a fantastic entry if it can be.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Yeah, no, you make a very valid point about the whole, you know, like, I cannot think of a name, at least, you know, that is more internationally known, that decided to take part in the contest and then actually succeed. With Cascada, it was more like, oh, I know them. I love Every Time We Touch or Evacuate the Dance Floor. It's just more as a nostalgic thing that they think maybe it'll trigger, and they use it as a tool to reintroduce themselves to the public. But it just is not working unless you really have.
Most artists are up-and-coming winners of reality TV shows like The Voice, or they're very well-established acts kind of coasting at a comfortable position where, like, you know, I'm going to lay back. I've had my big success. I was international once. I'm just kind of happy being a national star. And we'll see what Eurovision does for my career.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep it updated. I'm curious to see how many big names we're going to have this year. And then we'll go from there, and then we'll check back in June or so and see how they did. All right. Well, everyone, that's it. All we have for today. It's been long enough. I want to thank both of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about this, and everyone else. Just make sure, I'm sure we got a few things wrong, as we always do. So make sure to, again, message us on Twitter, our Twitter handle, ESC United. You can hashtag ESC United us. We'll find you that way. You can use our forum where we always check our stuff and see what's going on. And did I miss anything, guys? Anything else you need to bring up that I failed to mention?
Nope.
I'll take that as a no. All right,
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see with my last statement if there is an artist who is really successful in a country who, you know, I'm from the US, so I don't know as much of the pop music that's going on in Europe as much. So I'd be curious to see what the readers say if there's an artist there who was really popular, really hot right when they were announced as a Eurovision entrant.
I know Cliff Richard was in 1968. I don't know if that counts. But that's the first, it's been like 50 years, so I don't think not recently. But yeah, I want to hear from our readers and see what's going on. Let us know, correct us. I'm sure you'll love doing that. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. And until then, see ya.